Agreed? Show of hands? It's okay. I'll take it as the rest of the room. I'm sampling. It's fine. Thank you. Lance,
Good afternoon.
what the audience doesn't know is that you and I worked together for a very long time in some place before. So we do know each other quite well. But for those of you who are not aware who Lance is, he's a very important man in South Africa, by the way, guys. Very, very important. He's an editor-in-chief of IOL. Who here has heard of IOL? No, 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 I'm serious because this is going to be critical for what we're going to discuss. Who here has heard of IOL? All of you? Are you sure? Then it means you'll help make our jobs quite easier because we are talking about audience engagement. Part of it is going to be about the content they put out. And apart from being an editor-in-chief, Lance is also a very important man, Chief Audience Engagement Officer. That is why I'm asking if all of you are familiar with his brand, because some of the questions that need to come from all of us are about what they are doing as a brand to show if are we actively or passively engaging with their content. Now, when we talk about audience engagement, right, we're not only speaking about you clicking on a link. There's a lot that you do when you click on that link. And it determines engagement. We just heard about the different emotions. And yes, I do have my sympathies for people who give us power, right? And electricity, my sympathies go to them. Because every time I read that story, there's always a certain emotion in me that gets invoked. And I will not say it. Now, you think about that you're clicking, reading a story. But are you reading it till the end? Does it bore you from the headline? Does it bore you from the intro? Do you engage with the story? At the end of the story, how are you feeling? What do you want to say to the next person? Who do you want to tell about the story? Do you want to punch Lance because you think he's got the wrong angle? You know, that's how an audience engages. So that is why I was actually asking you deliberately the questions I started with, because that is what an audience engagement is. And we are able to gauge where you are and what you do. So Lance, you have the tough job of engaging audiences, watching the patterns and all of that. One would ask, according to IOL, how would you guys describe audience engagement for your particular brand?
No, thanks very much, and good afternoon to everybody. If I haven't had a chance to greet you in person as yet, but you know, it's a very interesting thing because I've been the chief audience officer for a while, for a number of years, and monitoring what happens with digital audiences, we can see that there is a slow and steady decline in audiences engaging with platforms. Now, this is due to a number of reasons, and I mean, we obviously have identified this, and we know, you could build the most fantastic platform, you could have the best content. If you are not where your audiences are, then there's no point in you even creating that content. I mean, the same goes for marketing. You could have the best product in the world. If you have zero budget in marketing, nobody's going to know about the product. You can have a terrible product and a fantastic marketing team, and your sales go through the roof. So what we've discovered over the past sort of year and a half is that we need to be more increasingly where audiences are. But when an audience switches on the television, they're coming to watch a program, right? They want that thing. They're engaged on that thing. When you have an audience who is coming to your platform to read the content, that's what they're coming there to do. But that's not where audiences are spending the bulk of their time. If we look at the social media studies that come out regularly, WhatsApp is the most engaged with platform of South African audiences, South African connected audiences, followed then by Facebook and then all of the other social media. So what we've discovered is that we increasingly need to be more active on those platforms. I'm not going to present a radio show on television. Similarly, I can't present printed digital content on social media. I need to tailor that message and tailor that to the audience needs. So what we've started doing is creating content specifically native to the platform that we're engaging on. So not the same piece of content goes onto TikTok, that goes onto YouTube, that goes onto stories, that goes onto reels, that goes onto shorts, that goes onto our platform. It's all tailored specifically for the platform because that's where the audience is. So
Sure.
the long way to answer your question is audience habits and appetites are changing, and we've had to adapt our entire business model and our content production cycle in order to accommodate that.
And one wonders, though, how challenging has that been, given the fact that as the media, we often talk about shrinking newsrooms, we talk about shrinking budgets, we talk about all kinds of difficulties that we're facing, because with the shrinking budgets, it means less hands on deck.
Yeah, yeah. Critical to that, the reason for the shrinking budgets and the shrinking newsrooms is the shrinking advertising. The advertising pie, the slice that media gets out of that pie, has been severely diminished. Companies are more likely to spend, and I'm sure, I mean, we're sitting here with representatives from government. I'm sure that you are putting a lot of your ad spend, a lot of your marketing budget behind Google and Meta, right, in Facebook. You're marketing to Facebook, you're marketing to Google, because that's where the audiences are. So there's less and less budget coming to our newsrooms in order to fund the jobs that we do. And it has meant that we've had to really adapt the manner in which we create our content. In the past, IOL would have its own newsroom. Each of the newspaper titles belonging to the group that I represent, so Independent Media is a different company, they run the newspaper titles, the Star, the Pretoria News. Print is dead, apparently. We've just relaunched Sunday Independent in print. We've just relaunched Pretoria News in print. If you do print right, there's life in it. But all of the 16 newspaper titles that we have as part of that group used to have their own editorial teams. We've had to streamline that, and we've had to say, okay, right, instead of all of these teams, why not have a very focused content selection team pulling from a pool of content that is created centrally so that you understand that the narrative is the same, the political stance is the same. We've been unequivocal about our position on Palestine. We've been unequivocal about our position on Donald Trump and on the GNU for that matter. Apologies, government communicators. If you know what our stance on the GNU is, we've been running a series of content over the last couple of weeks. But it has meant that because there's less revenue and we've had to deal with shrinking newsrooms, how do we use those resources more effectively? How do we say, okay, right, instead of just hiring a writer for the Star, can I hire a content creator whose content can also be repurposed for print, repurposed for digital, but they're content creators at the end of the day. They know how to create video. They know how to create engaging content that will get the responses. Then how can I then tailor that content and repurpose that content across platforms?
And it really sounds like a multi-skilled media practitioner rather than somebody who will come and say, I'm a broadcast journalist, I'm this and that. You need to kind of know your way around. And it's interesting because I started in print, by the way, and I still don't think it's dead. But when you look at the fact that audiences are changing over time, I'm interested to just hear about your data, and I'm sure everybody here else is. Are you finding that the numbers are showing that more people are driving towards your website, or are they towards TikTok and all of that? And what informs that data that you've managed to collect?
That's a very interesting question. Unfortunately, I'm not going to share the specifics,
Yeah,
right?
don't
can't
give away your secrets.
trade secrets. But what I can say is that I've just come back from a global media conference in New York about a month ago, and we were speaking a lot about the impact that AI has had. Now, AI has had a significant impact on news publishers specifically, right? Because if you were to Google who is the minister of this department, AI overview is going to tell you.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need to click anymore. You can ask. You can ask about. So, what have search engines become? They've become answer engines. They're no longer search engines. Where do you search for things now? Social media platforms.
True.
Why? Because if I Google, I've got 4 children. Um, if I
I've
Google,
got 3, so don't worry.
you know,
Yeah.
the struggle is real. If you need to figure out what to do this weekend, right? I can Google family-friendly restaurants, and it's going to give me a list. It's not going to give me the vibe. It's not going to pass the vibe check if I find that on Google, right? But if I use TikTok to search a thing, I get a vibe check. If I search for it on IG, I get a vibe check.
So that's what vibe check is, because my kids keep talking about vibe check, vibe check. I'm not sure what they mean. That's what vibe check is.
I trust my almost 18-year-old daughter to keep me on par with the communications. But once you understand that TikTok is a user behavior informs TikTok as a search engine. So what content can I create that answers the questions that users are asking on TikTok? What content can I create that answers the question so that when I create, and I mean, everybody used to talk, SEO, search engine optimization.
Yeah.
Now it's AIO, right? It's artificial intelligence optimization, or GEO, generative engine optimization. So am I creating the content on my platform? The question we used to ask ourselves, is it good for Google? Is it good for social? Is it good for people? You almost don't have to care about people anymore, right? Because is it good for the crawler? Is it good for the perplexity crawler that's searching your site? Is it good for the ChatGPT, the DeepSeek crawler? Is it good for Gemini's crawlers? Are you creating content that helps the AI overview answer the question more effectively? And thankfully, not fast enough, and not enough of it is happening, but thankfully a lot of the answer engines are sort of linking to where they got the answers. They're now attributing, they're no longer plagiarizing our content, which they have been doing for years. But once you make that switch in your mind, you know, okay, right, am I creating content? If I know that the audience is using a search engine as an answer engine, how am I answering those questions? How am I answering the audience need? And I think that's the critical thing. We don't, I mean, one of the panelists or speakers was speaking earlier, you know, and I wanted to echo that sentiment, because from a news content provider perspective, we often have to remind our journalists. I've got one of my seniors sitting in the room over here, Siflim Lambo. We have to remind our junior reporters regularly, stop writing for other journalists. Not everybody knows who Mama Bolo Kubai is, right? Write for people. Write as if this is the first time they're seeing this thing. So it has really impacted our concept of how do we create content and where do we create content for, by monitoring those audience trends.
And it's quite interesting. Please, if you do have questions while we engage, feel free to raise your hand and we will get a mic to you. So it is a fireside chat. And I just need a mic on this side, a mic here. It is a fireside chat. We are just trying to understand exactly what is happening. And I do have a follow-up on that, but I'm going to pause for a second, just give you a moment, just to ask your question before we continue.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Halman Shlomoga, and I'm from Wits University. I think this particular conversation is so exciting to me because I'm an avid user of social media. So I'm a content creator, and I work with Wits also to create content for them.
Do you want the job?
Yes, I do. So I think you mentioned something that really was so exciting for me, where you're saying that the importance of aligning each piece of content that you take out to align to the platform that it serves, right? And I think that's very important, and I think the practitioners and the communicators that are in this room need to take that into account, because it comes across as forced on social media when I see that something doesn't belong there. Now, my question to you as the IOL, right, is that we know that news is meant to be credible and independent and impartial and all of these beautiful things that journalism
I'm glad you're mentioning independent, impartial, SABC.
Supposed to be.
I just want to know, how do you maintain your credibility on social media, where social media users like myself can sometimes have a larger voice than you and can sometimes direct the direction that news goes. Yeah. So there's a lot of creators, especially on TikTok, that claim to say the news, and I've just noticed trends, and I can see what publications they're working with sometimes if I do come across a story, and where the news becomes, where I can see also publications will take sometimes maybe a social media influencer and do a story with them. So I want to know, how do you guys maintain that credibility?
Thank you. Quite an important question.
Yeah.
We'll take the lady at the back and then we'll move to two. It'll be two, three. No, no, no. If you can, please, can you? Two is
This is a
there.
very engaged audience member, this one.
Yes.
I like
Two.
I like her.
She's a very, very engaged audience member. So please hold on for a sec.
Do we have
Lance, do you
prizes,
want to?
Lorato? We have prizes for the most engaged
Where's
audience
Lorato?
member.
Do we have a prize for the most engaged audience member? Okay, thank you, because I've also seen her quite a number of times since I got in. So please hold just a sec. Do you want to take that or do you want to?
Yeah, let me just
Yeah.
answer this one very quickly. So you're absolutely right. I think audiences on social media, particularly when you look at Gen Z, right, they're very good at spotting authenticity. They are less likely, the Gen Z audience is less likely to trust a brand. They're more likely to trust an individual. So the importance for us is to ensure that there are faces behind the brand. There's a small cohort of content creators that work directly with Sihle, and some of them report directly to him as well, where he's putting them front and center. So we take some of our senior reporters who say that you are the voice behind this campaign, so that we build up that profile so that it's a human being that you're dealing with, and you can reach out to the human being. I think authenticity is key. But you're absolutely right. There are social media influencers with bigger audiences than the BBC, bigger audiences than the New York Times. And we can't fool ourselves into thinking that we can challenge that popularity. What we do have, I mean, as IOL, we've got the star into the digital world, but it's so easy to cock it up, man. Like you make one mistake and like your credibility shot. So and you just got to keep at it. And but yeah, that's how we balance it. It's just trying to build as much authenticity as possible.
Interesting. Our most engaged audience?
Okay. Before I get to my question, it's interesting that the young journalists, they don't learn. They didn't learn in a general school that you need to say who a person is. That's interesting about the higher education. What are they teaching? Yeah.
Can
Okay.
I comment on that quickly? So I sit on UWC's media board with Prof. JJ Tabane, and I sit on the CPUT Journalism Advisory Board. And one of the a good story will make it through. You need to know how to market that story effectively as well. So a lot of that knowledge doesn't get taught at, apologies to UJ and Wits and all the other universities that are present here today, but at an academic level, I don't think the curriculum is, there are essential tenets that must
Maybe
be
let me
taught.
ask my question because that was my main question. So the person or the people that you're talking about who are going to do the kind of to be called chief audience engagement are the education institutions producing those people? Because I'm worried about that. Because for you, it's experience and life experience. So are the universities, I don't know, colleges, are they producing
All right.
those kinds of people?
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I'm happy. I'm open to engaging with any institution who will listen. I shout about it regularly.
Okay. So I think that's actually quite interesting, and I'm noting your hand this
And there's
side,
another
and
one on the
there's
far
hands
side
that
behind the
side as
lectern there.
well. So you see, now I'm liking this engagement that's taking place. Let me take you, Sissy, and then I'm going to move to the
Yeah,
other side
otherwise
of
we're
the
going to
room
be
quickly.
accused of being
Yes,
biased.
and it's not nice. There, yes, go ahead.
Hi everyone. My name is Noluthando Mutswai over here. I work for GCIS, but my specific role within GCIS is I'm the news editor for Vukuzenzele newspaper. So I like what you said about having digital content creators. So we come from a space where a lot of the people in our newsrooms were trained more towards print media. So I'd like to know what was the process that you followed within your platforms to transform your staff, to transform your team into becoming digital content creators. We all know how you did it, but in terms of what was the process that was followed? Because from where I'm standing, that's one of the biggest obstacles that some newsrooms have to overcome.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Okay.
Sure.
And it's interesting because you're speaking about resistance,
Yeah.
because it is a real thing. I come from a print newsroom, so I know what you're talking about. So resistance is a thing, and I don't know how you dealt with it.
So I wanna move my chair so that I can look. I don't like to just speak generally. I wanna look at you. Um, it's a process that we're still busy with. Digital transformation is not something that happens overnight. There are newsrooms within our group that are still resistant to this change. There are newsrooms in our country that haven't even begun the process. At the moment, it's just shovelware. It's just taking the printed copy and sticking it online. To get them to think digital first, to get them to think create social media native content because that's where the audiences are. It's tough. It's not been an easy process. There's there's got to be a carrot and stick method. So you've got to motivate, and we say, okay, right, let's set a page view target. Let's say each journalist has to meet 1 million page views a month, right? If you make 1 million page views a month, I will give you a 3,000 Rand cash bonus on top of your salary. If all the journalists, and I mean, basically, you can ask him, if all the journalists in our newsroom all make their targets, and not all of them have 1 million page view target, right? Some of them may have 800,000, 600,000, depending on their level of seniority. Um, if everybody in the newsroom makes their targets, then on top of that 3,000 Rand, I will also pay you an additional 1,000 Rand cash bonus. If everybody makes their page view target, so the audience impact target, plus their output targets. You have to produce at least 5 stories per day, taking you to about 110 stories per month. If you manage to meet that and your audience target, I will pay you additionally a 5,000 Rand cash bonus for the team. And only when the team meets their audience targets and their page view targets, and their output targets, do the content managers and the editor also get a bonus. And our bonus was very small, but it was, and I mean, I've never achieved that. But so there's that. Then there's obviously the punitive measures of like, listen, you're not doing well enough. You're only hitting 20 stories a month. That's like less than 1 story a day. I'm sorry, but you don't belong here, and we have to have those tough conversations with some of our team members, unfortunately. Which is
Yeah.
why I'm saying, you want a job, man.
There we go.
We don't
So,
have as high a staff turnover as
and can I get the
pretty
agent
stable.
fee? Can I get the agent fee? I facilitated the move. Can I get the agent commission? Any hand that side? Yes, I see a hand right on the other
Probably, I
side.
think we're gonna have to stand to
I think
take that
I can
question
see
there.
you. I just don't want to be accused of staying on this side of the room. I noted you. I'll come to you. I just need to move to the other side. So it's going to be from here to there. Can we start there with that hand that's raised very, very high up?
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My question is on AI. I wanted to ask if there's room or if you guys have ever explored generative informative AI specifically for news channels, because I feel like AI overviews lack a certain nuance, a certain local nuance that our journalists have. So on your website, sometimes when I search something that I know you've written about, I can't find it, right? So how can we use AI to streamline and make that search bar more efficient. Because sometimes I don't just want the minister. Sometimes my question is nuanced. Sometimes my question says the state of healthcare in South Africa. And I need something that's going to pull out all those articles. That's sort of like a timeline that's going to give me all of that. I don't know if we explored that or if there's a room for it. Thank you.
I'm smiling because we are looking at that. I mean, I think the technology that we've just implemented on our new website build, it allows for that. I think we just I'm getting lost here. Sorry. I think we just need to implement it at a back end perspective as well. So yes, it is coming. There is a level of AI that we want to help to serve up to our audience so that when you're looking for something, it starts learning your user habits and gives you. At the same time, that can be dangerous because, like social media, it can create an echo chamber. So you may not know about, if you're in Ekurhuleni and that's the only metro you want to know about, maybe you're not going to be served up content from the city of Cape Town or from city of eThekwini. And and it's up to us to be able to balance what gets served to you. But yes, absolutely, that is something that we are looking into implementing.
Talk about being journalists, right? We stand, we know what the room needs. Let's go quickly.
Thank you.
I see Lurato through the corner of my eye, so if we can try to just, can I take two more questions?
Lance, I want to know, how does IOL use AI tools in content generation, curation, and personalization? And what does content play in driving subscription, ad revenue, and affiliate marketing in terms of IOL? Lastly, I would like to know, because mostly now, most of the government departments, they've got their online newsletters, magazine, and whatever. So if they want to go digital, what kind of advice can you give them? Because now, remember, when we go digital in terms of our magazines and whatever, we need a subscription in order for that to maintain that magazines. Our colleagues willing to pay for subscription fee to read the online digital magazine, because it is a website maintenance and all of those things, SOEs, AIOs that we are talking about. Because most, if you look at our website now, they are not interactive, and if you look at the SEO, it's not there. So what kind of advice can you give? Because they are very dull, our website. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please answer.
I think I might need to.
I can sense the passion in his voice. Thank you.
Very quick to that question. From a platform perspective, nobody's going to come to your website. No, it's not going to happen. Websites are now are now seen as traditional media. They're not going to come there, right? So newsletters are still a huge thing. If you look at platforms like Substack, like Medium, where entire communities are built based off a website. There's a very young lady from New Zealand. I can't remember her name now, but her product is called Shit You Should Care About, or Shit You Should Know About. And it started out as a newsletter, and it's a free newsletter, but it's built in a subscription model so that you can have a premium access to her and direct access to her and get information and, sit in on lives and stuff like that. And she's making a decent amount of money. She spoke at the 2023 INMA Global Conference. But go to where your audience is. That's my main piece of it. If your audience is on WhatsApp, go to WhatsApp. Nkululeko spoke about PWAs, right? Progressive web applications. Don't build a whole website if your audience member is sitting with 50 megs of data, right? PWA is the way to go then. Don't build an elaborate website with high res images, but people aren't going to come to your website. Go to where the audience is.